Okay, I can't wait to hear why you decided to pick on this particular proverb today and what exactly it means, the applications of this particular proverb. He chooses to run away from, to run towards, runs away from. Okay, anyway, so let's talk about the issue of gender equality, the global push for gender recognition, gender equality, terms like gender mainstreaming come in. And now we have it even in the Constitution. It's one of the things that is being championed in the BBI, that, with the BBI now, you're going to have a way and a formula to ensure that we have gender equality in our Houses of Parliament, even in our county assemblies. It's already there, and looking at other appointable positions. But the conversation does not go beyond government into the private sector. So let's bring in that conversation in the private sector in terms of gender equality in the private sector, starting from senior leadership positions. How many corporations actually have senior managers who are of the female gender? Or if you look at the management team, would you say that it has proper gender balance? Is it 1 man to 10 women, 2 women to 10 men? Is there that? Then let's even go beyond that to the management. At board level, how many organizations actually have women sitting on the boards? How many organizations have about 30% of women sitting on the boards? That's a third. How many? Because now we are starting with many organizations starting with men occupying seats on the board. How many have brought in women to try and strike that balance? Last week, there was a story in the dailies that the Nairobi Securities Exchange had joined something that was being called the 30% Club, that is championing the inclusion and the mainstreaming of gender in the boards, and saying that we can have 30%, at least 30% representation of women sitting in the boards. This is not the first time that the conversation about boards and bringing women to the board has actually taken place. But one of the people who are championing this now, the 30% Club, and the leader of the 30% Club in East Africa, joins us in the studio. Her name is Zuhura Odhiambo. Zuhura is the CEO of an organization called New Revenue Solutions Africa. Good morning, Zuhura.
Good morning.
Good to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Welcome. This is a situation room that is called the hot seat.
Yes.
It's not going to be very hot for you. It's just going to be warm.
It's a good one.
Adequately.
Yes.
Talking about this whole issue of gender mainstreaming, especially in the boards, and the 30% Club. Just tell us about the 30% Club and what it is that you're championing.
So thank you so much for having me here this morning. And of course, talking about my passionate topic, which is the 30% representation that we're driving. And that is from the 30% Club, which drives gender diversity in boards. The 30% Club drives the gender diversity to encourage a lot of boards to, be able to get that representation. Not only would it help them in the aspect of leadership and, the whole corporate governance, but also we've seen the productivity of how those companies have performed when they're able to take care of that. And even as we talk about the 30%, it's not 30 that is the minimal, it's the entry. We've seen companies and even Kenyan listed companies that are actually doing even up to 50. So 30 is just kind of the minimum to get in, but we are encouraging to drive it all the way to 50%. Others have even gone beyond 60. Yes.
Why is it so low?
Why? Yes.
Is it so low? Because I mean, just looking at the information that we have around, I think probably the highest now we're looking at among some of the best in the country is 25, 26. That's the best.
Yes. Yeah.
Some are as low as 10, 11.
Yeah.
Why is it so low?
It is low because first, yes, we can't ignore the patriarchal system that we've had, as Africans. And not only that, because you've seen that even across the world. Actually, 30% started off in the UK in 2010. And that was a need that has been pushed. And we're even seeing up to now, not all of them are aligned to it, but we've seen majority and good growth around it. But coming into the African context, because Kenya, the East Africa has actually been the second after South Africa, who have been the main champions of the 30% Club, and now we have the East African representation that we launched like 3 years ago here in the market. And that has been also because of lack of awareness, and even people just understanding about it. More about, we drive heavy that it's not about gender. And it's about business. So we've seen serious diversity brought into the boardroom. We've seen serious diversity that has enabled organizations actually perform better. And that's what we are driving out there. So when people look at the 2/3 gender rule, 30%, everything else, it's not about the woman. It's about what is that comes out from this diversity. And organizations that are looking at that are actually already embracing the new that is going to come up. So hence the reason why you've seen it on a low. It's not been an easy buy-in. And also just look at the board representation. A lot of the women that you have on boards, you'll always find that they are represented maybe from a financial point of view or legal. Most of them are because they have background in legal or finance or HR. And we're trying to say there's much more that the boardroom needs, and especially now, and COVID has taught us better. So we're really trying to create this awareness for organizations to see that it is not just because it's a woman, but it's a brain that is needed in the organization to be able to help the organization focus for better productivity.
Zuhura, how do you differentiate this? You know, I'm a bit confused.
Yes.
You say it isn't about the woman, and yet it is about the woman.
Yes.
Now, are you talking about affirmative action, or are you talking about a meritocracy? Or are you talking about a combination of both?
Yes.
Because you don't have to be exclusive.
Yes.
It can be a meritocracy that has affirmative action thrown into it.
Yes.
Because for the longest time, the representation of women,
Yes.
where meritocracy is concerned,
Yes.
has always worked against women.
Against women.
Yes, just being a woman
Yeah.
put you at a disadvantage. Even if you look at the courses that were offered, for instance,
Yeah.
at the time, maybe even before the time people, my generation went to university, there were courses that were assumed were courses women should take, like education.
Yes.
Okay? And if you took medicine and you want to specialize, pediatrics. And
Yeah.
so, what is it that you're actually championing? Are you championing a cause for women?
Yes.
Or are you championing a cause for merit at whatever level and for whatever gender?
First of all, merit at whatever level and whatever gender, of course, has to be put in place because there is fairness. If you talk to a lot of women, and even if you see and talking as a woman, they say that we work 3 times as hard than the men for us to be able to actually show that we are capable. So already you come into society and the expectations that are there, and never looking at some of the things that a woman carries as responsibility across. But we're also naturalists, and hence the reason why, and even looking at the future of boards right now, you need those kind of representation in your boards to be able to steer you across, because businesses are not operating how they've been operating before. We are seeing employees, a lot of things, culture being a bigger hindrance or driver into how organizations even, take charge of different things. And you'd always need at board level to have that gender lens element to be able to say who would drive us, who would see this. We've seen opportunities that have been there. You've seen a lot of companies, and even just talking of the likes of Standard Chartered, I remember last year there were the top that were there on the Equilib report that was done with the Nairobi Securities Exchange, and new faces, new voices. And if you look at some of the things that they have incorporated in the organization, they've got a program called SCATS. You can see that, when we let mothers from maternity, I've got like close to 6 months, stay home, and you're paid. And when you come back, you actually get a promotion because of that. And you can see how that has gone into productivity of the organization. And even then the fathers, I mean, you get a child and it's quite a celebration and a motivation that even if you said, I'll leave at 3 because I need to go and help at home, it's one of those things that are respected. Now, in the effect, we are starting to leave what people are experiencing. And when organizations start seeing that, it wasn't like a long time ago, I think, when I was getting my son, I must have gotten 2 months maternity leave, and I'm like, wow, that was really short, and nobody understood that particular point. It just looked like you needed to do this. Now we've gone into places where organizations are seeing that, and we're seeing very good productivity because you've got this equipped mother who comes back, gives her best. And even now we have COVID that has taught us working from home. People have integrated that. So if you looked at it, the reason I'm saying it's not, when you look at it before women, and some of the experiences you've had in some boards is when they see you there as a woman, remember you're maybe one woman against 9 men or 8 men.
Why
and
is it against? You're making it sound
in the presence of one woman in the presence of 9 men.
Of 9 men.
Is that better?
Is that,
infinitely.
Okay.
yes, in the presence of 9 men. And when you come in and you're at the board and you're seated and everybody says, wow, okay, I feel like a cup of tea. Zuhura, why don't you serve us some cup of tea? And you're like, my goodness, you know. So I'm not coming here because I'm a woman. I'm coming here because I'm here to drive the business agenda.
Okay. So you haven't answered that. So is it meritocracy with what was it?
With a peppering of affirmative action.
Affirmative action.
Or
yes. Or is it mainly affirmative action?
I would say both in a way, in the context of it is affirmative action in the representation of what the woman brings on board to the boards is actually needed than saying it was just because the woman is as good as qualified like the man.
So can't we just be bold about it and say that it is affirmative action? Because the truth of the matter is that there is merit that women bring to the table.
Yes.
And I think that is something that can just be accepted across board.
Yes.
So now what we are saying is because we know these elements have already been stacked in place, now you know that a woman is capable.
Yes.
She has the ability, she has the education, she has the expertise, she has the skill.
Yes.
Now, whereas there has been this patriarchal attitude
yes.
towards this whole time.
Yes.
Give this woman an opportunity.
Yes.
In this directorship. Give this woman an opportunity on this board.
Yes.
You already know she can do it. So we need to affirm the action and say, insist that she be given a place. And as opposed to say, oh, you know, she's a woman, she can't know.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you look at the reason why, and we've been seeing a lot of positions that are dropped at middle level management for women. A lot of women say, I do not want to deal with that. You know, it's a lot of politics and, you know, so we're dropping them. So you're seeing, and right now I'm very happy we are steering further. We have seen even in the listed companies, we're now having chairpersons who are women. We're seeing Vivienne at Kenya Power. We are seeing Rita Kavashe. I mean, it's amazing at BAT. These are good stories that we want to show that we can actually do it. And the better part of it here is we need the opportunity to sit in those spaces.
You know, Zuhura, I'm listening to you and it sounds like you need to remind yourselves as women that you can do it, and yet you actually can.
Doing it, yes.
It's there is a bias that men have.
Yes.
Okay? Yes. It's just a simple reality. And I would venture to say that bias is built in men primarily by their mothers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It is mothers who instill in the African male child this idea of you can't come into the kitchen because you're male, yes. You can't do this because you're male. And then when they are grown up and their biases are fully matured, it then becomes an issue. But in the boardroom and in those places or those high echelons of power, are we suggesting that what women face, if it's discrimination, it is worse than what men among themselves also have to contend with? Or do women face a special kind of bias?
What kind of discrimination do the men face?
They're already
themselves?
At the table.
Yeah.
No.
Men are already there.
No.
They are not discriminated at all.
They are discriminated against.
How is it? Tell me.
For you to be, if you're talking about the commercial sector, it's like a club. If you don't have a certain kind of background, no matter how intelligent you are, for some it's a university you went to, for some it's a school you went to, for some it's the people you know,
the golf club,
you're a member of. Yeah. So that already exists.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. So, and if you don't have that background, God help you, the likelihood of you getting anywhere close to any board is almost next to zero.
Now imagine all of that and you're still at an advantage over the woman.
Imagine
all of those biases you've talked about, but you still have a leg up over a woman. That's what we're looking at.
You see, this is what I'm asking because it's a perspective that only a woman can give effectively. I can't give that on behalf of the women.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can only say it from the perspective that I understand. That's why I asked the question. You see, you're also suggesting that overcoming these odds in itself is of necessity negative, and I'm saying it isn't.
Yes.
Because you have more hurdles to overcome, when you're in a position of authority, you're actually better equipped.
Yeah.
That is really what I'm saying.
What I would add on that is the experience is totally different. And normally it's because even of the numbers. I've been in boards where you're seated one woman or even you're two. If one is absent, you already then feel it. And also it's the reason I'm saying about creating awareness is because when you see the 30%, we target our members are chairmen and CEOs of organizations because we're driving it up there for them to see, for them to steer their businesses to the next level. They need to put in the diversity and inclusion aspect, and they have to have the 30% representation. They will start seeing a lot of things change around because I've experienced it where you're seated and you've got, 7 men in the room and in the context of even a lot of analysis and cases where a woman would say, Zuhura, what's your thought about it? And everybody's being asked, for example. And I'm like, yes, I'm looking at our P&L needs to be looked into because then there is this other sneaky, development that might actually cause this. And you'll be told, okay, thank you. Okay, Eric, now tell us, what do you think about that? And then Eric goes and they say, oh, I like what Eric is saying. How can he, it already, I don't know whether it happens naturally, and it's something that has also happened, in real board sitting. So we're trying to just say, and we need the men. In fact, it's amazing that the 30% club, we normally have what's called the leaders walk, which we've done with various corporate organizations that drives the middle level to top level that we are driving to ExCo to be ready to actually lead. Then we have the boardwalk. This is for the women who are sitting on board that they can actually meet and talk about some of the things, and peer-to-peer mentorship that is out to steer them to say, you know what, it can actually be done. Now, the best experience last time we had one of the hosts who was a man, and then he came in, and I think there were a total of 5 men, and then the rest were women. And they said, now I feel what you go through in the board, because you literally just kind of go, it takes something away. But when there's more embracing, and actually our champions are the men, so it's nothing against them. It's more about when you pick that and you sit and you look at it like there's something Zuhura will offer on this table, then definitely you will actually start steering it. And when I come in, I don't look like I need to serve tea. And I'm not saying all the boards serve tea, right? But you start looking at it, what is she adding into this board that will steer the organization to the next
How
point?
do you deal with the cultural biases that we have within us, even as we enter this pursuit of boardroom positions?
Yes.
Because when I talk about cultural biases or cultural influences, like the role of men,
Yes.
the role of women,
Yes.
in that is embedded some very serious cultural biases.
Yes.
So irrespective of how educated or how well trained somebody is, these biases play a role. How do you deal with them so that you can either use them to propel your people to the level you want them,
Yes.
or how do you deal with them to ensure that you eradicate them?
The conversation that is out and how it has actually been easy is first having the men champion who are championing us, and second, taking it back home. When you talk to a mother, and I'll even talk to you, to a man, and I'll even talk to you and ask you.
You confused me there for a moment. I thought, okay, now, what is it about me that is making Zuhura want to talk to me like a mother? Okay, carry on.
You must have thought it's the design of your shirt. But then, anytime you bring it and say, if I asked you today, do you know somebody, even if I just took it back home, in your family, who can actually, a woman who has worked hard, who can represent this organization, this country, this, the Africa into the space that it needs to be, you will definitely have somebody. If I asked you, what about your daughter? If I asked you, your daughter in another 10 years, where do you see them? Can you see them leading an institution? You'll be like, wow. But anytime when it's taken away, you actually think, okay, this women, and it's amazing how we need to have the men champion this agenda and be able to say, you know what, we know they bring something different. We have had experiences where even architects have actually talked about, wow, those houses moved fast because we had a woman on the board who said, you can't put, the kitchen finish like that, because what does it take when you go buy a house, you call your wife and she looks through and say, we can't buy it. And did anyone think about them before development went up to say, we need the brains of that to drive this business? Yeah. So there are a lot of things that we bring in the market space that are literally going to take companies to next places where they've never been.
As you sit with the organizations, Zuhura, and you're having this conversation about, the need for you to include more women in the boards, what is it that they say are the challenges of actually tapping into the talent pool of women?
The challenges have been is, if you talked on both sides, men will tell you, where are those women? Yeah. And I will tell you, I've got a handful of them. And they're just asking, where can I go? So we've been also in the aspect of, we're encouraging more and more women to actually stand up and even state, I would like to serve on this particular board. And these are what I would be bringing on board. Because then we sit and think, okay, somebody will call us. So what we have seen is there's been a reputation in board appointments to various people. I mean, people we've known even when we were still younger to where we are now. And at the same time, it's because then we haven't been saying it in the open spaces. But the opportunity we have now is there have been a lot of programs that are even making women ready.
I want to discuss that when we come back and, look at, so where are these women that can then join the boards?
Yes.
Because, like you said, same names, even the men.
Yes.
You'll find same names. One person is the chair of 7 boards. There's what the experience that they've brought in terms of serving as one board and then rising to chair. And there's something that someone can argue. The reason why this person is being appointed into the various boards is because of how they have been able to steer other boards. Now, the women that are to go into these boards, where are they? And our guest for this hour is Zuhura Odhiambo. She is the Chief Executive Officer of New Revenue Solutions Africa. We are having a conversation about a push for more women on corporate boards. She spearheads a club called the 30% Club in East Africa that is spearheading conversations about inclusion of women. As we were going to the break, I was asking, so where are the women to join these boards? Let's start from what City had actually mentioned earlier. In terms of, from the upbringing, there are courses that are predetermined to be, these are where the women will go. Then in the corporate world, there are jobs that are known. So head of marketing, and you find a woman, you're okay. HR, you find a woman, you're okay. Finance, as if sometimes, okay. So boards will look for these competencies as well, because the board is looking. So we're going to be forming a board committee on audit. We're going to be forming a board committee on HR or investment committee, and we're looking for somebody who's got this competence. So if the pool is, very much biased towards only one side, let's say the marketing expertise, that's what's going to be brought by women onto the board, don't you see that's a challenge?
Of course, that is a challenge in the context of we are asking and looking at the future boards. Things cannot be done the way they've been done before. Not because we didn't have any wins previously. We've had very good wins, but looking at how businesses are positioning themselves and talking from the angle of new revenue solutions, we have seen organizations that have tapped new revenue by just how they're changing how they are handling their boards and how they even have the board composition. We have, we know very well that there are some things that naturally women come with into the boards. And of course, you're sure that a woman handling the HR committee, you're definitely, getting so much mileage off it because we look at it differently. And hence the reason why organizations then would actually be able to appreciate that particular aspect. But then it does not define that we cannot be able to handle other departments as well, because you've seen very well qualified women who actually been in finance, whether they are in legal. I mean, there's serious. Look at our
Auditor General is a woman.
Yes, our auditor. Two times we had my friend Miss Agnes Odhiambo, of course, did a good job. We saw that, so you cannot be able to say that there are only particular jobs. Yes, there's some that we do better because naturally, and more about dealing again with the human resource angle. But again, we have opportunities to serve across where the same men are actually serving and qualified also to be able to serve there.
Do we find women holding back from putting themselves up in terms of candidature for these positions?
Yes.
On their own, even if the position is open, and you find women deliberately not going for those...
Yeah, we have, and I would say women are champions. And what we are trying to really encourage more women is to stand up. I would tell you, for example, women look through every nitty and gritty. They have put a board position. They need this kind of qualification. And a woman will look at every speck of it, saying, but I'm not. They're already ready to say, I'm not. But the man who hasn't even achieved those is busy saying, I can, So they say, let me not put in because they were asking that you should have experience in. But, so we're trying to encourage you shouldn't sell yourself less. But it's because also, as we tell you, we try to work 3 times as hard as men to be felt. So when you're halfway through, you keep thinking, I don't want to put this. But we're encouraging a lot of them and to be able to just stand because they've done amazingly well. But also we're encouraging a lot of mentorship that should be happening in that space because you should be able to see that woman who can get into places. And sometimes they just need that person who would be able to, an accountability partner who would tell them, you know what, you can do it. And now that you also got that job, this is how you would do it. And these are the challenges you're facing. This is what you do. Men do that. They meet in a club and talk about different challenges and they say, actually, that's a different thought. I've never looked at it that way. While women would think, I needed to have known it right, so I don't need to ask much. But we're encouraging a lot of them to totally, let that go. Yeah.
When you say encourage them, do you have specific trainings?
Yes.
Do you have specific seminars? You do?
Yes, we do.
And do you have placement programs?
Yes. Yes, we do in the context of 30%. So we have the leaders work, which is mainly the leaders who are top in management, exco, and then also nurturing them to get to board levels. Then we have got the board work, which I talked about, which helps the women who are already on boards. What else do you need to equip yourself more? And even how are you then, what is it you're going through that you're able to then look at those who have been there before, and even men mentors who are actually mentoring this. Then we've got the mentoring session that happens from schoolroom to boardroom, where we're actually looking at middle level because we're losing them at that particular aspect. So this is done from cross-company mentorship that is done in different companies that host. And you're able to always, we do it every month, and you're able to always, have a lot that you can share with this. Other than that, I'm an alumni of the Strathmore Business School, where I did the Women Directors Leadership Summit. Amazing program that we actually did that prepares you heavy as a women director to be able to serve on that. I'm an alumni of the FKE Future Program. They've got a whole board-centric program that is actually out to just drive the women to be on boards. We have seen what Women on Boards is doing. Amazing program. We have seen Dr. Patricia Murugami. She's doing her masterclass for the board Women Ready. That is also there. That is, can be used across. We've seen the women corporate directors. Again, I'm a member of Women Corporate Directors. We have enough women, very qualified, and majority of even the ones who sit in the top listed boards are all members of Women Corporate Directors. And it's, again, an international initiative, that has been there. So we are not saying the women are not there, and they are all out there. And
what's your representation with women leadership in the public sector?
Women leadership in the public sector, and this is one of the conversations that we have been having with the women in the public sector. We know very well that we have had discussions even with our able Professor Kobia in reference to just some of the things that we need to go into there, because the opportunity that we saw is there are opportunities that are there in the public sector, but again, there are a lot of women who fear the public sector in the context of...
But there are many women in the public sector.
And there are very many women in the public sector.
Many competent women in the public sector.
Yes.
And some incompetent. But...
It's a mix of both.
It's a mix of both. But
It's
there's a
human
reason
beings.
why I threw in that curveball.
Yes.
You see, policies that determine what happens in the private sector are not decided at the private sector level only.
Yes.
It's at the public level.
Yes.
the overarching thinking and policies that eventually guide these businesses start there.
Yes.
So if the changes that you want should have the effect that you desire,
Yes.
should they not be a push to have more women at that high level of public level policy making?
We have had those conversations. In fact, last week, of course, I was in partnership to drive the first women economic conference that happened in Kenya, to help us reshape the Kenyan economy by unlocking the women's potential. And at the tail end of it, we had very good discussions at the We Hub, which is at the University of Nairobi, and of course, the Ministry of Gender. Heavy conversations that have been started, that have been put down, and we're even working on a research that is going to be out there for the public sector. So it's key, and we have got strides that are already being developed in that context as well. Policies that are being put in place. I know we have tried not once, not twice, about the 2/3 gender rule, and we're still passionate that we will still be able to achieve that, because the successes we are talking about, even on the corporate side, you can imagine how big a success they can be in the public sector. And of course, re-engineering things to take Kenya to the next level. So it's conversations that are on. We are believing even this conversation on 30%, it's taken us long to even get here and see the Securities Exchange, come on board. It's been over 3 years of negotiating. So we believe that we are still going to get there.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that for want of a better word, the archaic thinking that has not allowed women into these circles previously, do you think that we're still working with the dregs of that? Or are we past that now and saying it's just now about, getting the work done? Do we still have that thinking that women should be in a particular place and not in powerful circles like boards, at heads of organizations? Is that thinking still crippling action?
Yes, the thinking is still there in some circumstances, and here's the reason you're seeing us create more awareness and even have a lot of champions and ambassadors who are actually championing this cause, because, as he said, it's from the mothers that nurtured the boy child to kind of think this way. Don't go to the kitchen, don't do this. And it seemed like the girls needed to go there. How would you change that in a day?
You can't,
to tell them that, now from today on, and the man has already grown. So of course it's coming, and also the best part of it is we're seeing new injection of what's coming in. Look at it. We would say in the future focus of the future boards, we are having even we're encouraging people to even have younger board members, because look at what COVID did. Disrupted companies. Everybody got digitalized. You could do whatever you can do from anywhere. And then opportunities were there. And the young minds are the ones that are driving that. Have we ever thought as a board now we actually need a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old to sit on the board? So with this, all disruptions that have come and the opportunity and the future of boards, we definitely need to change our thought about our board composition and ensuring also the gender aspect is being considered. Yes.
Let's talk about the success, because you've talked about the various programs that are there to prepare women to sit on the boards, and then the 30% club also that's championing this and saying, all right, so you are a corporate organization, let's work with you on how you can start accommodating women into the boards. So how many, let me just use the word for want of a better word, how many placements have you had of women into boards of corporate organizations so far?
So far, we've had about, and that is from last year, about 25. I would say that, and the ones that we know and the ones that we have worked with and the ones even their organizations have actually been part of the 20% club. We have seen that, and we've even seen chairpersons. Our first was, of course, Standard Chartered. We saw and the chair, who again Standard Chartered were the first to launch the 30% club in Kenya. And you've seen again from research last year how they're number one. So something is happening. So we've had that, and of course we are really steering this forward and encouraging more corporates to come in, and we can be able to give them reference on who are these able women, and these able women are there and they're board ready and they are across.
So if you look at the Nairobi Securities Exchange and the companies that are listed there, how many would you say have reached that threshold of 30%?
I would look at right now, maybe like about 15%. You look at 15%, and of course conversations have been on, and hence you've seen how Mr. Geoffrey Dundo has been passionate about this. He's really championing it, because when you look at NSC is heavy into, plays a vital role in the growth and the economy of this country. So it's quite an engine that cannot be ignored in the context of that. So them taking a lead around it should tell us something about how organizations need to actually be able to focus on the future of boards.
Have you considered a situation where your efforts may bear very, very successful fruit to the point where the representation of boards is actually predominantly women?
We have seen, that's a good one. We've seen boards that, in fact, and maybe not publicly listed companies, we've seen private companies that have actually had over 70% representation of women. And again, it always depends also on the kind of, business you are in.
And
but
how have they fared?
Wow, I mean, they've had very good. In fact, the growth path has been so big, but then also because they had been given that opportunity. As I told you, we all work 3 times as hard. They must also be putting in so much to be able to just show this can actually happen. And we've seen it steered to the next level. So that can happen, and it is also going to happen. It's of course, it's forecast that in another 20 years, we will be having the men trying to, fight for the even 30% representation
in 20 years.
In boards in another 2025. This is focused because we are seeing a lot of, look at the classes. Let's just take it back. Evening classes, if you have ever attended, you'll have heavy representation of women. We are seeing the drive that we are giving them. We know what is there and what would happen in many years, because we are having more leaders come in space. And hence the reason why. Imagine if we had the men coming in as heavy ambassadors around this, then it's easier that even then we are carrying the boy child, because the boy child in many years to come will actually be in this same space. So it calls for leaders like ourselves to be able projectionally to look at it and say, how are we able to always put this as a balance? Let it just happen naturally, where it doesn't get, now there's an over focus around this, and there are bigger wins, and we know that we all are important to sit on the board together.
There's a question that was asked earlier, and you even went into it a little bit, and which is on, shall I call it, the confidence of women to apply for positions. This is not just about boards, but it's about positions. Right now, the conversation around counties is, the BBI says that if a governor is of one gender, then the deputy shall be of the other gender. And the bigger assumption here is that the governor shall be male, the deputy governor shall be female. This kind of mentality is not just among the men, but also among the women, on terms of sort of limiting yourself to what you can do. Look at the number of women who applied for position of Chief Justice.
Yes.
Look at the number of women who applied for position of Judge of the Supreme Court vis-a-vis the number of men who applied for this. And there's even a point in time when a commission had actually sent out applications, advertised for applications, and they had to redo it because they required more women to apply, and yet women had not applied. And these are positions that women who have championed the cause of women have actually qualified for. They didn't. Those who were in the forefront of championing women causes are not applying for these particular jobs. So what is it that needs to change to encourage the women? As long as a position has been, we should have seen 7 women applying for the position of Chief Justice and say 3 men. Why is it still that we still have fewer and fewer women putting themselves out there for these jobs?
I will answer it in 2 different ways. First is because, and what I discussed before is always thinking, wow, do I really want to get there? Because you realize that even how women have been represented, and sorry to talk to the media as well, media has always been home. When something happens or a woman leader does something, oh my goodness, you should see how it is actually put out there. When a man does the same thing, it's quiet or it's minimal, and such things have never been the things that attract more women to come in. They're like, wow, my company, my family is going to be splashed all over. Let me just not take it. Let me take this and not be able to put myself out there. So it's about how have we been bringing up these women? How many times have we celebrated the women? We are out to, talk bad about what one woman has done or the other for so long, and we're not able to even bring and celebrate some of our own that have been there. And then the other bit has been, we need more and more people encouraging these women. I believe, and every time when somebody's looking for someone, if I ask the three of you, do you guys know anyone who could be able to do this and that? You're sure you have somebody.
Yep.
So how many people are owning these conversations to be able to say, we know this woman, Zuhura can sit in this position. She can be able to drive this and that, and will be able to take it. And even if Zuhura is, you tell me, Zuhura, you know what? You can do it. And I know you can do it. And you're here. We are here for you. We want to see how that is championed, because we're losing a lot of them down there. I know I did the first, in fact, from the last election, I did the first, as New Revenue Solution, we did the first women governors task force team that was put together, because I was just excited to see for the first time we had 3 female governors. And it's amazing that, we were like, let's sit down. Let's see what can be done, what can be broken down to deliver your manifesto to the people. This is encouraging. Of course, in the next election, we expect to see more women actually take those positions, because it has shown that they can actually be able to deliver. So we are encouraging more and more, but even in the public space for them to put, in fact, I think I saw some adverts the other day where they say women are encouraged to apply.
But But Zuhura, 3 out of 47.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But from none.
This is really my point.
Yes.
You see, if you keep referring to the bad old days,
Yes.
then you are lowering that threshold considerably.
Yes. Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you look at the education sector and how education has opened up for all Kenyans, and I say all,
Yes.
then opportunities should do the same.
Yes.
The point I'm trying to make is, if we are talking politics, I would argue that the greatest hindrance to that progression that you're speaking of are the women themselves.
Yes.
Because it's the women who don't vote for their own. It's the women who don't see the need to
present themselves as candidates.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the limitations, yes, men play an important role in creating it, but women play a significant role
Yes.
in ensuring that they don't get to these very same things.
And it's what we have to address now. I mean, look at the population. We know very well we have got heavy representation, that close to 50, going above women representation across all the counties. So you can imagine when you state, and yes, I agree with you. And it's one of those that we're trying to, encourage them, for them to see, and even encourage them from them seeing by example. Did you see this was done by that, and this is where we have been.
Zuhura, how many women do we have as MPs, elected MPs? I'm not talking about women rep. Women rep, it has to be a woman. So MPs.
Constituency MPs.
Yes.
Right now.
How many do we have? It's not the numbers I'm interested in. It's the concept. Because the numbers represent an idea and a concept. You see, if you see women in the public domain, the influence of them being in the public domain, the public sector being elected, plays an even bigger role than that of women in boardrooms. Because boardrooms are secluded. Not many people are even aware. Like, if you ask me who this new chairman of the board of Standard Chartered, I will not tell you, because I don't know.
Yes.
I saw it and I said, oh, okay. And that was it.
Yes.
All right? But if you're talking about political representation, they make a bigger
visibility.
Yes.
And that's why I always support that position of woman rep, because it provides us with that. We can see more. We can see 47 more women in positions of leadership.
Yes.
And what that does is it makes you see that there are many possibilities.
Yes.
Same thing with nominating women to parliament.
Yes.
The way it used to happen, those 10 slots. People like Millie Odhiambo were first nominated, and then they went and they contested against men, and they won.
And they have continued to win.
Because they had that
were given an
platform.
opportunity
They were
to
given
show
its
their worth.
opportunities.
And I
Yes.
think that's when you talk about this placement, that's why it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they would not be given an opportunity to show people what they can actually do.
Yes.
Now, when that position is created, then those who come out and are able to actually go and duke it out have an opportunity to show people, look, I am a woman, yes, but this is what I'm able to do. Without the initial opportunity that has to be clearly forced.
Yes.
And I put force in quotes. without the forceful action to put them there, in many cases, you're going to lose out on gems. And if that doesn't happen, then they will not be able to show you what they can actually do.
And that's
the point of this affirmative action.
And that is why we still encourage that. We hope this can be had, that we still can have that women representation for every county. I understand where BBI is coming from in the context of creating more positions. But then again, we know there are communities that will never really ever front any woman to be able to, take any leadership. So you'll be amazed that some communities will never have any representation for women, to even serve.
Not in law?
Yes.
Why?
So we encourage the 47, the women rep position to still be there.
Well, there'll not be senators if the BBI passes. If, as we conclude this conversation, I just want to read this comment out to you. I have a problem with Zuhura. She should push for gender equality for its sake and not focus only on women. Let us focus on humanity as a whole. Champion men and women alike, and even youth, or else it slides towards feminism, which could be counterproductive as a narrative. Respond to that as we say goodbye.
Okay, so thank you for your question. Yes, I'm not pushing just for women, and I'm trying to be clear that it's not about gender and it's about business. It's about the opportunities that have been created. It's about the opportunities that sit there. It's about seeing that it can be a better place if there's diversity that's included in everything that we do in regards to leadership. So if we can have more and more representation in the spaces where they have been male dominated, you'll be able to see what would actually be a plus for all of us in our productivity, in how organizations, handle their leadership and encourage the future leaders to be able to also come and serve in very well.
Zuhura Odhiambo, CEO of New Revenue Solutions Africa and leader of the 30% Club in East Africa. Asante sana for joining us today, and we wish you all the best as you continue this push for women representation on the boards.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
have
you so
again
much.
Soon.
Yeah, thank you.